Hello everybody, this is Jack Dennis and welcome to our fly fishing and tying channel. I hope you're all having a good start to the new year and out tying a lot of flies. We started a couple of weeks ago with our Jack Dennis and Friends fly tying session. Our first one was with Dave Allison, and I'm going to be showing you some from the past. One of the things I've been involved with my fly tying career is setting up fly tying theaters and been involved with the many conclaves that fly fishing groups and clubs have over the country. And they really highlight tyers that you may not have ever met. And one of the best ones is one in Idaho, both the Western Idaho Expo and the Eastern Idaho Expo, which is in Idaho Falls. They've been doing these fly tying get-togethers for a long time. We're talking over 30 years. So I want to do some highlights from some that I filmed in 2009 and 2010. And you'll get a chance to meet some names you know, and maybe some names you didn't know. And one of the nice things about tying at these expos is all the excitement and sounds of people going around telling lots and lots of fly fishing stories. Most of them may be exaggerated. But one of the nice things about the theater is you get a chance to listen to the tyers talk about their experiences and answer questions. I think you're going to enjoy them. We're going to start this week with several. We'll try to give you the most information. And I know some of you are going to say, wow, you know, I don't know about the materials. Well, these are really uncut. So, you know, you do your best on figuring it out. But I think you're going to enjoy the interaction with the crowd and with the tyers. And really uncut and I think extremely fun. Let's get going. Our next fly tyer is an Idaho native. He was born and raised on the Salmon River in central Idaho. Nate Bromley, at a very young age, started casting gray-hackled flies and hooked rainbows in Whitebird Creek. Nate remembers to this day the 14-inch fish that completely jumped out of the water with his fly hook in his mouth. He's been chasing fish and tying flies ever since that moment. For over 40 years, Nate has put a footprint along the shores of high mountain lakes, spring creeks, and tailwaters that led to the creation of his company, Dry Fly Innovations. You're going to enjoy his great wit, his excitement, and his patterns. He calls it fish magic. Take it away, Nate, and be sure to check him out on the website.
I'm Nate Bromley. I'm the owner of Dry Fly Innovations. Little background on our company. I've been dry fly fishing for roughly about 45 years. And in that time period, I've tied flies during that whole time period also. And it's always been the same way. It's always about the fishing has always driven the fly tying. The fly tying always followed the fishing. That's just pretty much the way it always happened. I don't know how many times in my younger life and still today, you're out there on an old river somewhere and there was a hatch happening and you got 18 boxes to choose from, and by golly, there was a color shade that just wasn't right on any of them. So, you know, you fell just a little bit short of tying having the right bug when you needed it. But you know what that always did? That always brought you back to the fly table, and it drove the other end of what it is that I would do. And over time, it's been a great life of chasing big fish and tying a lot of bugs. And we created a company from that experience. So anyway, let's go ahead and get this thing started. And I don't know whether the backside of Jack looks really good, but what the heck, he's looking. I say, I don't know whether the backside of you looks really good, but it's close enough.
Looks like shit. That's all right. Black people were never meant to be movie stars.
You got that right. I've learned that. I've learned that for sure. The first bug that we're going to tie today is a rather unique tie, and I'll put it up here for you right here. This is what's called a single upright wing mayfly. If I turn the bug toward you, you can see the wing that's tied into this bug is almost exactly as a mayfly wing. Very slender. It's tied out of duck down. Okay, it's tied out of duck quill and hand carved to the exact shape of the wing. We tie this in about probably 20 different patterns to match almost every hatch that would happen on a mayfly across the Northwest. So if you grab my fly box and you were looking for mayflies, you would see that fly, and you would see that fly in a multitude of colors. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to spend quite a lot of time trying to explain exactly how you make the wing. If you can make the wing on the bug, you can tie any of the combinations of colors out there to the exact mayfly hatch that you would anticipate. But you have to be able to tie the wing. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. And to give you an idea, the wing is the first thing you tie into your bug. And it's also the most critical. The idea behind this is you're going to take a quill of a duck and you're going to support it and adhere it directly to the shank of the hook. And here's the way we do this. We're going to start here down at the end, and we're going to run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. To that point right there. At this point, we've indicated where the back of the wing is going to be. Now, what I'm going to show you here is a duck quill. Jack, can you see that? Can you see that okay?
Yep.
Okay, this is the leading edge of a duck quill. You can see the small notch that's been cut out of this quill. We're going to cut another small notch out of this, and that piece of quill is going to be the next wing that we adhere to the bug. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the wing, or cut the quill.
Jack, we need to move this one. Is he blocking it? Yeah. Okay, well, let me get this one done and I'll catch up.
Now,
just move it just slightly to the left.
All right.
And you have to redo it. Hold on. You were dealing with somebody taller than we had to. I may have to raise that camera.
What you're looking at above the hook now is duck quill. One piece of duck quill. And the idea here is we're going to adhere the duck quill directly to the shank of the hook. So,
focus. No, other side. Everything's done from that left.
The key to laying the duck quill, there is a transition point in duck quill. When you take the clip off of the feather, look at the feather from the side. You'll see at the top of the feather, in this direction, it's thin toward the top. As you move back down the feather, you'll find a transition point where the feather begins to widen. You want your thread to hit exactly on that transition point. It's essential that the thread hits on that transition point. So let's go ahead and try this. And my excuse is always this: I haven't tied this bug in a while, so if I mess this baby up something horrible, don't blame me. I just haven't practiced. So anyway, let's put this baby on there. Now, here's the idea. We're going to slide the feather directly over the shank of the hook. Here, like this, we're going to put a loose wrap around. Now squeeze the feather and then pull straight down, just like this, until you feel it stop. That's critical. It has to stop. Now, at that point, release. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go up and around and let your thread rest behind the feather. So we've taken a loop around behind the feather. That is the mechanism in which we will fulcrum the feather into place and lean it to the 45 that we're looking for. So now let's do a quick little clip on this. Now that little process right there looked fairly simple. You will have a learning curve that might be days to be able to compress this feather. But once you have it down, it will be well worth it, because you can create every color of mayfly that you ever dreamed. Yes, sir.
As you get your 5 wraps, and you can around the front of the feather and back around the back.
You're absolutely right. Now,
read his question because the sound won't pick him up.
Okay. The question was, I made 5 wraps and then I went around behind the feather. That's exactly what happened. Now, when I clip the feather, you see a small fulcrum point that is right there. If you were looking at it from my angle, you would see a small fan shape at that point. I'm going to bring the thread around the feather, which I've already rested. I'm going to raise the thread slightly, and I'm going to put it into the fulcrum point and stabilize the feather at this point in time. So let's go ahead and do it. Now, there'll be a point in here where you can't see what I'm doing, because I've got to get behind the feather to be able to move it. I'll keep it as visible as I can. I'm going to go behind. I'm going to raise the feather to here, go through the fulcrum point and down, like this. And you'll notice all of a sudden that the feather has gone straight up. That's exactly the look that I'm looking for. Now, I'm going to hold this in place. I'm going to pull. It's perfectly straight. We're going to go around and around. At this point in time, we have created a single upright wing. We're not going to mess with this wing at all at this point. We are done with the wing until we do a final clip on the wing. So let's move ahead with the rest of the tie. And what you'll see here is simple hackle feather or hackle filament. And we're just going to strip a nice straight piece off and create a tail. I should have never had that last cup of coffee. That's all I can tell you. Always on your pull. If you can see this, you can see how straight the pull is. The same way that your tail will look on the feather will be exactly the way that it will adhere off the feather. So give it a good pinch, pull out on the end, and then we're going to go clear out here on the end, do a nice little loop here, check our length. Now we're just slightly long on that tail, but oftentimes the bug that we're tying here, which leans off toward a little gray calabatus, he does have a long dominant tail, so that's the reason we're making this just a little bit longer than what we normally would. So let's go ahead and tie this on out. When you tie a mayfly, no matter what the mayfly tie is that you do, always think about 2 words, tight and tiny. Abdomens have to be small, tight, and tiny. That's what you want your mayflies to appear, because that's exactly what they are in nature. They're not looking for some great big old fluffy thing with a great big wide fat body. That is not real, and it will not perform, and it will not catch that premium line of fish. So let's go ahead and do a trim off here. Now, to create the look that we're looking for here, you will never see a mayfly in your life that does not have a striated body. And if you're going to make a mayfly, you have got to put some kind of a striation in that body, because a fish looks for a living, and he will eat hundreds and sometimes thousands of these small bugs in a day. He knows exactly what the bug is that he's eating. If your tie happens to be off in one way or another, that little bit of difference, he is hardwired into seeing the real bug. So your challenge is to make the real bug. So that's what we're trying to do here. And the way that I found to make the best mayfly body that you can make is with a biot. Critical. So let's tie a biot on. And here's what we're doing. We're only catching the tip of this biot here. Tight and tiny. That's the idea behind tying a mayfly. Tight and tiny. Now when I reach the base of the feather to here, I've pretty much got everything in place. If you're going to work with a biot, go with the idea in mind that you make a bug, and you make a bug indestructible. You make it to where you can fish it now, and you can even fish it through 8, 10, 12 fish before he tears it completely up. Make a tough bug, and here's how you do that. You glue down all biots. Critical. So let's get a little pinch on this guy. Always when you work with biot, there is a ridge side of biot and there is a smooth side of biot. If I were making an emerging bug, I would want the ridge side of biot. For the tie that we're doing today, I want the smoothest, neatest, striated body that I can make. So in order to do that, I want the reveal edge of biot. So let's get a little glue on this guy, and then we'll see if we can string a biot on this thing. What I found to be the most successful of all glues that we use, believe it or not, it's crazy glue. It's totally water resistant. It almost forms into a cement, and it will form these biots into a position to where they will never move and they will never break. And if they do break, then what will happen is they won't come unravel. It'll just be a little edge that'll pop up. So let's roll the biot here, very gently here. First turn, critical, always. We've got just the amount of turns on there that we'd like to see. If you counted the segmentation on most mayflies, it would be somewhere between about 5 to about 7 rotations that you can visually see on the bug. So we've got about 5 rotations on that, and we got the striation in the body exactly the way that we're looking. That's the look that we'd really like to see. And notice how small that the abdomen is on this bug, merely almost the size of the shank of the hook. So let's go ahead and secure this. And what the biot is doing now, it is leaning up against the edge of the feather on the back side, and it is supporting the feather. So the feather is still in the upright position. So let's go ahead and take a piece of hackle, and the hackle we're using here is blue dun. It's grizzly that's been dyed blue dun to go along with the look that we're looking for on this particular bug. Now you want to secure the stem back behind the wing, or in front of the wing, and in back of the wing, and that way that will never come loose in any shape, any way, shape, or form on the hackle. Now, there's a rule about dubbing. When you think that you have the right amount of dub, always pull a little less. Dub is always one of those things that will grow on you once you pull it out of the container. Tight and tiny is still the idea that we're looking for in this bug. We don't want a great big old fat thorax. We just want a little rise between the abdomen and the thorax. That's all. this is such a small amount of dubbing that you would ask yourself, why even dub the darn thing at all? But you know what? If you're going to tie a bug, by golly, you owe it to yourself to tie that bug as perfect as you can possibly do it. So if that means that you got to put on a teeny tiny little bit of dub, put on a tiny little bit of dub. Now we're going to throw the first loop around the hackle and secure it in front of the hackle so there's a ledge there. That's what we're trying to create. The ledge will go around. Now we want to get behind the hackle, nice and easy. You don't want to skew the feather that you're seeing straight up. So we're going to loop this around, and we're going to bring it to rest and measure exactly where we want the hackle to end and the head to begin. So let's go ahead and swing this, and I'm not very used to using this particular vise, and there's not very much room in between these areas where I'm turning. But by golly, let's turn this and see if we can get her done. Now, here's the critical turn on the hackle. We are going to 45 the wing on this turn. I'm going to pull it forward. I'm going to get in the groove behind it. I'm going to apply pressure, and I'm going to 45 the wing at this point in time. Now my hackle's trying to turn a little bit, so I'm going to spin it, shoot it around. There's not much room to work with under this vise, but by golly, we're going to work it out one way or another. Now I'm going to bring that around, and then always when you're finishing off hackle, make sure that your cut is keen, very keen, through the hackle. And you notice the separation of the hackle, the portion that's hackled and the stem end of hackle. There's a nice clean transition there, which makes it very easy for me to trim this and then move ahead with the head of the bug. Now we got a pretty nice clean little cut on this, a little bit of trim, hair, hackle. It doesn't make any difference what it is. It cannot be at the head of your hook. Your heads have to be clean, they have to be perfect, and they have to secure that hackle to the point that it would never move in a zillion years. You could break that hackle, but it will never come loose at the knot. That's what you're ensuring. So let's go ahead and spin this. Now I'm going to go all the way to the eye of the hook, and then I'm going to bring it back and begin to build the head in this direction. Multiple wraps. I want that hackle stem underneath this. If it ever even thought about slipping out of there, it could forget it because it is so strapped in there it would never move. Now, I'm an old style dude, and I have not learned a lot of new methods about how to do a tie off. I don't use a whip stitch, but I can make a hell of a good half hitch, I can tell you that. 3 half hitches on a bug, and you would never need to ever worry about doing glue or doing head cement on your bug. Your final half hitch is always a nice secure pinch. We'll do a little trim off here, and you'll notice a small stub of the thread that I've left there, and there's a purpose behind that too. The last knot that you put on your head, you never want that knot to ever move. So by putting a tag off the end of it, slight tag, it will never slip out of there. Now, the bug for all practical purposes is finished, but we still have one little item that we have to do. We have to finish out the wing. Now, you probably will not be able to. Now, if I butcher this, please understand that you never cut a wing inside the vise. You take it out of the vise at this time. And here's where the cuts are. I'm going to try to do this on the vise. I've never done that before, but I'm going to try. Here's what you're going to do. I'm going to go clear up at the top here, and I'm going to shoot this. Is that going to get in the way of the camera?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's what.
Can come in from the west.
Okay. Watch that one over. Okay. Oh, okay, good. So here's what let's do. I'm going to go clear up at the top, and I'm going to try this. Like I say, I've never done this before. I can't do it. So I'm going to take the hook out, and I'll hold it in place, and I'll cut it for you right there. So there's no way I can get the proper angle on that. So I'll go ahead and take this out. Oops. Alrighty. Now, take your finished product here, and then go ahead and just put it in your
Bring it back in front of you.
Yeah, I will. Okay. Now, you can kind of see where we are right here. Now I'm going to turn the bug to the angle that I'd like to cut this. Can you still see it? Okay. I'm going to turn it. You see it? Okay. Okay. That's the position we want to be. Always rest. When you make a critical cut, always rest your scissors on something. You can see my finger is the brace. That's the first cut in the wing. Now I'm going to turn it this way. You still see it okay? Yeah. Okay. We're going to do 3 clips here. 1 here. 1 here. 1 here. Now, as a finished product, you probably cannot make a wing in nature that will look more close to a true mayfly wing than those 4 clips on a quill. If you turn the bug toward you, you can see that we have mounted that straight down the shank of the hook, pretty much straight up, and under the conditions, probably that's about as good as you could expect that wing to look. Now, whenever you deal with quill, you have to keep in mind that there is a curvature to quill. It comes off the feather that way, and you can see that slight bit of curvature in the bug that we're looking at here. Now if we turn it sideways, you get the sideways profile, nice long tail. You'll want to do a little bit of prep on that, get a little bit of fluff in that to where you can gink that, and it will support the bug flat. There's one final thing that you would do to this bug. If I turn it toward you, see how the spiral hackle on the bottom? We want the bottom of this bug to be clipped completely, okay? All of the bottom portion of this hackle should be clipped flat. What that creates is a balance point on this bug. No matter where it would land on its side, this way, wherever it would land, it would always roll to an upright position. There's not 100% success in that, but you will cast this bug 100 times, and about 65% of the time, it will be absolutely perfect. And if you're casting it into the right hatch, you won't recognize it from the real bug that's on the water. You can see by the profile of it, it's probably the closest thing to a real mayfly that you can tie. So, that's a single upright wing mayfly. Who? Yes, sir.
Is this one of the flies you tie in your new video?
It is. It's one of the flies that we'll be tying in our new video, and we do give a little bit more instruction on how to make that process a little easier for you. This is not, it looks pretty easy for someone that's done it, but by golly, there is a learning curve that goes along with the bug. And the thing that I want to really stress is the fact that when you're holding the quill across the hook, make sure that your pull is straight down through the quill, and that you're supporting the quill on both sides with your fingers. You're pinching that quill so it is supported, and then you're pulling it straight down through. If you can do that and hit the fulcrum points on the quill, look at the quill and look where that transition goes from thin to thick. So that's a single upright wing mayfly. Now, yes, sir.
How short do you cut the hackle on the bottom?
About half length, to where what it does is it makes this perfect straight and flat transition point to where that bug, if it's clipped properly, it should always end up, it'll do the same thing on the table that it will do. You'll notice that I can throw this guy out on the table, and most of the time I say most of the time, he'll roll back to his perfect position straight up on the table. And the reason for that is there's a beautiful flat clip, and that wing is straight down the middle of the shank of the hook. Now, let's go ahead and move on to another bug. What's that again? That size is a 16. And on a single upright wing, do not ever tie a single upright wing on any bigger bug than a 16. Don't even try it. If you go beyond that point, the wing becomes too high and it becomes a wind knot waiting to happen. Okay? Do not tie that bug on any bigger than a 16. But then again, you can tie it all the way down to 24s and 26s, and it still is just a super tie for that critical hatch, and especially crystal clear water where that fish is just seeing every part of your bug. This is probably the best mayfly that I think I've ever fished. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on. Next pattern. The next pattern that we're going to work on is what's called a searcher. And the reason why I have selected the bugs that we're tying, our company is not about fluff, and we're not about beauty, and we're not about, selling things to fishermen. We're about selling things to fish. So if I put a fly in the vise for you, it's a fly that I know that you can take to wherever it is that is your fishing location, and I know that you're going to have a bug that's going to do you some business. That's the reason that we tie flies. We don't tie for beauty, and we don't tie for fishermen. We tie for fish.